The time is just gone 9:42 a.m. now. We've learned about Pfizer and BioNTech. We've struck a deal for South Africa's BioVac Institute to help manufacture around 100 million doses a year of the COVID-19 vaccine. And this is for the African Union. We're joined on the line this morning by Mia Malan, founding editor and director of the Bhekisisa Centre for Health Journalism in Johannesburg. Mia, good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, just looking at what has now happened with regard to the assistance in making both the Pfizer and the BioNTech vaccines, this is quite relevant for South Africa, and particularly looking at the volumes that will be produced. We know Aspen is doing its bit with their deal with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Now, what does this actually mean for us here in South Africa in terms of this deal that has been struck with BioVac Institute?
Yes, so I think the first thing to understand in terms of what does it mean for South Africa and for the rest of Africa is that this is not an immediate, it's something that's going to impact immediately. The production process is only going to be up and running by middle 2022. So it's not something that we're not going to see the vaccines tomorrow. The other thing that is important to understand is that BioVac is not going to make the Pfizer vaccine from scratch. So we're not going to be able to produce our own vaccines. It's only going to do the end part of the production process. And that's generally known as something that's called fill and finish. And it essentially means that BioVac will import the drug substance to South Africa, and drug substance is just a smart word in the science world that is used to describe the ingredient in the vaccine that makes it work. So we won't be producing that ingredient. It will be imported to South Africa, and then BioVac on this side will package it and will mix some of it with an inactive substance, and will also put it in vials and label it and distribute it. Now that's part of a larger production process, but really just only one part of that. And it's similar to what Aspen is doing. Aspen is taking the J&J vaccine, which is a different type of vaccine. So it's made in a different way from Pfizer's mRNA vaccine. And it also just does the fill and finish on the side. It also imports the ingredient that makes the vaccine work. And then it mixes it on this side, puts it in little bottles or vials, and then package it and distribute it to countries.
Yes. Now, also, Mia, when one looks at Africa, and we've learned about African countries which have some of the lowest vaccination rates worldwide, and they are obviously dependent on the global vaccine scheme. And delivery is obviously important. It's critical that these vaccines get delivered to the other African countries. But the one issue here is just to look at the timelines as well. Because, you know, when you're talking of this facility being up and running mid-2022 and going straight into 2023, which tells me one thing, that possibly this virus is going to be with us for a much more longer time than we anticipate.
It is going to be with us for a longer time, and vaccine delivery is still going to be a problem for a longer time. So as you may know, that there is a shortage of COVID vaccines across the world at the moment, and especially for Africa. And part of the reason why many African countries don't have enough vaccines, the first thing is that countries such as the United States and many European countries bought up the vaccines and there wasn't much left for us. But the other issue is that most African countries can't afford to make bilateral deals, so direct deals with pharmaceutical companies. The only way that they are able to get these vaccines is to get them through the international procurement mechanism that is called COVAX. And that means they can only get the vaccines that COVAX has bought. They can't get any other vaccines outside of that. So if they want Moderna, for instance, and COVAX doesn't have it yet, they can't get that vaccine. Where South Africa is in a bit of a better position, we have enough money to make a bilateral deal. So we have a direct deal with J&J and a direct deal with Pfizer. But even in that situation, there's often delays. So in our country, for instance, we didn't get J&J vaccines in time because there was a huge production issue with the ingredient that makes the vaccine work. In the United States, there was a contamination issue, as you may recall, and that is why we now still don't have the J&J vaccines that we've ordered. We've only received 1.5 million doses of 31 million doses that we've bought. We do have a bit of good news now. The health department said today that we will get our next consignment of J&J vaccines in August, and we will then start to distribute those vaccines to sites. We don't have a specific date of delivery that they have announced yet, but we do know now that we'll get more J&J vaccines in August. And it's really important for us to get those vaccines because they're only one dose, not two doses, such as Pfizer. So they're very suitable in areas where it's hard to go and follow up with people for second doses to use them there. And the health department said this morning they will also specifically be used in projects where they try to vaccinate older people at SASSA payout points.
Well, Mia, thank you very much for that. As always, we do appreciate your time with us here on News and Views on Salam Media. We wish you all the best and please take care.
Thanks very much.
Mia Malan joining us this morning on this latest development with regard to the Pfizer and the BioNTech COVID vaccines, which brings us straight on to 9:48 a.m. We're going to go for a break. We come back, we're talking about the European Union Court ban on religious dress at work.